Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to our very first vodcast of Dear Doctors, everything you ever wanted to know about sex therapy and sexual health. Today, our very first vodcast is on the subject of erectile dysfunction, or ED, any kind of difficulty therein. And to start us off, we're going to have Dr. Stein, Dr. Christina Stein, who works out of her office in Santa Monica, California, as a leading sex therapist, read us one of the letters that was written in by one of her potential clients. And I'm going to hang out and listen. Dr. Pelka, Suzanne Pelka, working out of my office here in Los Angeles, California. So, Dr. Stein, take it away. Read us the letter or the email from your potential client.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Pelka. Here's the letter. Dear doctors, I'm a 42-year-old man. I've been with my girlfriend for almost 2 years, and in the last 6 months, I've been having a really hard time keeping an erection during sex. Sometimes I start to make out with my girlfriend and can't even get an erection. What should I do? So I'll let you start, or Dr. Pelka.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like, so he's 42.
Yeah.
He's been with this person for 2 months, so there's still novelty there.
2 years.
So
Almost 2 years.
Oh, almost 2 years. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
almost.
And so I wonder if he's had this problem a long time or just recently.
Right. Well, he says in the last 6 months. So maybe something happened. I would, be curious about maybe what happened right around 18 months in the relationship.
Yeah, perhaps they moved in together.
Yeah.
And the security went up, the novelty and the eroticism went down, as often happens. Or maybe the pressure of his sense that it was now time to get serious and possibly ask her to marry him or something.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, and another thing too to think about is the pressure from her to him. Maybe she wanted things to progress, and that started, making him feel like, suddenly there was a different level of pressure or expectation.
Yeah. And usually for any couple, the sexual honeymoon phase lasts anywhere from 6 months to about 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So sex is really hot for the first 6 months. And sometimes it lasts and is really hot for the first 1.5 years. But around that time, most couples who don't work hard at it tend to experience their sex life decreasing in excitement or pleasure, or their libido decreases a bit for sex with their partner.
Right. There's less anticipation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too in this situation is, I wonder what medication he may be taking or what his health is like. I don't know about you, but I've been finding in my practice that there are a lot of men who are taking Propecia or health growing, medication, and that is a really bad medication. I mean, there's a strong correlation between that and men coming in with erectile dysfunction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's some new experimental treatments with that in terms of I've been doing a lot of research on this just because I seem to be getting a lot of these guys in my practice. And what happens with something like Propecia is there's actually a buildup of scar tissue at the base of the penis that prevents the circulation. So it prevents the blood flow into the shaft of the penis, preventing firm erections or even just being able to sustain it. And what they're doing is they have some experimental shockwave therapy where they're actually sending pulses into just the area below the testicles to try to break up the scar tissue. So it is potentially a very physical problem if you're not aware of the side effects of medication.
For sure. I have a client that swears that his Propecia is part of his erectile dysfunction. However, when he takes a Viagra or a Cialis, he does just fine. So how do you explain that? If the Viagra or the Cialis is able to get the blood flow, is that just because it forces so much blood flow to the penis that it?
Well, in some cases it does help, because there may not be that much scar tissue. There's different levels of permanent damage that has to be reversed. So
Okay.
sometimes it could be that his natural erection is not strong enough, but then taking Cialis, or Viagra helps, like you said, create more blood flow.
Sure.
It also, depends on how much time they've been on this medication.
Absolutely.
So, but in combination, I recently had another client who was taking Propecia and was having erectile dysfunction, but in combination with relationship dynamics, it sort of started to play together. His erections became softer. She took it personally. He started having sort of double performance anxiety. So,
yep.
Yeah.
So now, for one of our clients that has taken Propecia for a long period of their adult life, who would they go to get this cutting edge shockwave treatment? Because I know my client would be really interested in that.
Yeah, there's a clinic in San Diego. I think his name is Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein, and he runs sort of this experimental trial down in San Diego at this clinic, which I'm happy to provide as a resource on our webpage for anybody who's interested in reaching out to Dr. Goldstein or, getting that.
Okay, that's great. I know mine will definitely want to check that out. So let's talk about some of the psychological factors behind common issues of ED. The main one that I think we would all recognize is just anxiety across the board. ED tends to be, sexual performance anxiety. And oftentimes when somebody has sexual performance anxiety, they have other kinds of performance anxieties too, like in the boardroom or anytime they have to have an interaction with a superior or an older person or whatever it is.
Or athletes. I've seen it with athletes, the performance on that in sports.
Right. So when I see clients for erectile dysfunction as their presenting issue, I kind of do a holistic anxiety check across the board and see if they identify with being an anxious person or if they feel like it's solely in the bedroom. And some do just feel like, no, I'm fine everywhere else. Except for when I go to have sex with my partner, then I have a hard time. So we look at just sort of how they take care of themselves mindfully from a more holistic point of view with regard to their anxiety. And as you mentioned earlier, first thing I do is have my clients that are presenting with ED make sure they've had a urologist checkup, make sure they've gone and had their testosterone checked. Look for any cardiovascular disease of any kind. And then, of course, we go back and talk about their psychosexual timeline, their sexual history, how long have they experienced ED, because some of my clients experience ED at the start of every major relationship that they've had. And they'll have it for several months before they become very comfortable in the relationship. And then they'll stop having it. And these clients typically do not do well with one-night stands.
Well, which is, I've had that too. I mean, especially with the online dating and the sort of very casual, quick hookups, it just doesn't feel safe, right? There's no emotional intimacy in those relationships so that they don't feel comfortable.
But they feel so much like outliers because it seems like everyone is doing it. Everyone is hooking up. Everyone is, hooking up via Tinder or Grindr or this or that, and they can all have one-night stands except for them.
Right.
But I want people to know that there are lots and lots of people who, for various reasons, reasons, can have one-night stands. Their bodies just say no.
Yes, and then sometimes they have to listen to their bodies, right? It's not a comfortable situation. We're not, some people are not meant to be that way.
Right.
But there is that pressure to be the performer, to be the lover. And so when they can't, or when they, expect they meet a stranger and that's the only part of their identity that's getting shown, it does create a lot of anxiety. And so that makes sense.
Then they call us.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said then they call us.
Yes, exactly. I was also going to say one thing I have found to be interesting in treatment with, I started with my clients who are in relationships. I started to do joint sessions. So I would meet with my client, and then I would meet with their partner, and then I would meet with their partner alone. So I see them, the two of them together, and their partner alone, because the context in which a man is in a relationship really does affect their experience in the bedroom and around their sexuality. An example would be, recently I had a client who came in, and he was able to sustain an erection and masturbate on his own, no problem. So he had no issues with his erection by himself, but whenever it came to being with his girlfriend, he would lose his erection or he couldn't get one. And I met with the two of them together, and her personality was very, very assertive, very aggressive towards him. A little bit, it almost like put him in a position of doing right or wrong, and I could tell he had a hard time sort of saying no to her. And I think that really plays into the experience in the bedroom for them. So it is relationship context specific sometimes as well.
Right. And some men get very hard erections from very assertive, aggressive women. So not every man wants their woman to not kind of be assertive or aggressive. I think that's an important caveat. But those same clients, just like the one that you were talking about, Christina, I've experienced those clients will come to me because what happens is after they develop a lot of anxiety about having intercourse with a partner, and they still have no trouble having an erection with pornography or just, their own personal sex life with their masturbation, they will then develop sort of compulsive behaviors with porn and masturbation, which then creates its own problem. And then they'll come in basically with a porn and masturbation problem that came out of ED, where they wanted to check themselves. So they think that the men that I've worked with thought that, okay, well, I know I've had difficulty having sex with Jessica, but let me check to see if I can get an erection when I look at Pornhub or whatever. So they go and they try to test themselves, but problem is they don't realize it's apples and broccoli. It's not the same situation. A real life in-person sexual partner stimulates the brain differently than endless novel stimuli online can and does. So you really do neurologically change the brain's appetite for a certain level of stimulus to create the same level of erection. Sort of liken it to if you're going to go out for a really nice dinner and dessert, if before you went out, you got a Snickers bar and a bag of chips from 7-Eleven and ate them as a quick snack before you went into your dinner, your nice flourless chocolate cake is not going to taste very sweet because you already had a Snickers bar, and you're not going to have quite the appetite you would have had you not had all those snacks. So the cheap fill, and I have nothing ideologically wrong with pornography or masturbation, of course, but or by and large, but this is just a common experience that I've seen with people that then come in and we find out their main presenting issue is erectile dysfunction due to anxiety, but they're coming in with like a porn compulsivity issue.
I have a question for you. So like in that situation, because I've heard that too, where I'll have somebody come in and question if it's their partner that's causing the erectile dysfunction and not because they can masturbate successfully on their own, but then it's the partner, and they want to know if it's partner specific or if it's, more them. And so like you're saying, they go to porn to try to figure that out, but then how is there a way for them to explore that it's their partner or if it's them?
Well, that's why looking at the patterns in relationships is so important. If it's the very first partner that they've ever had, it's a little harder to tell, but usually the more you respect your partner and the more intimate, the more they know your shadow sides, the more they've seen you, screw up in life, as we all do. And the more you've had a long-term relationship with them, the more intimate it becomes, and therefore sometimes the harder to perform, because you can't hide behind any kind of role play really if you have a really deep, intimate connection. You can, of course, role play as specifically chosen, but a lot of people, I think men especially, well, I'm not going to say men especially, I think women do this too. They hide behind their like sexual persona in bed. So when they feel, really virile and masculine and like they can perform well, that's like almost like an identity, a sexual identity, a role. And if over time their partner that they're so intimately connected with, they gain familiarity, they lose novelty, they lose that eroticism. A lot of people get a Madonna whore complex, like this is now my partner, potential mother of my children, family, and family, mother, those are not necessarily supposed to be sexual or sexy roles. So they think, okay, I can make love to this person, but I'll sexualize all these people over here because these are still like the people that are sexy. And this is all very semi to subconscious. But the Madonna whore complex is real. And then partners often feel like, dude, like I want sex. I want it to be fun and exciting. I don't want just boring married sex. I want you to ask me my sexual fantasies. I want to lay it all out there. I want to be like the women in the porn, clips. Why aren't you looking at me that way? So that's a whole nother topic, which I'm sure we'll get into in future
we'll put that on
podcasts.
Our list for future podcasts.
Yeah.
So in terms of sort of more mechanical solutions or things that you suggest, you mentioned Cialis and Viagra. Some of the things that I've recommended to clients that they can do as homework at home. There are a couple different devices. There's actually a device out there called the Giddy, which is Giddy, and it is a ring that goes at the base of the shaft of the penis, and it's designed. It's not, a typical penis cock ring is round and it goes at the bottom, and it's designed to keep, reduce the flow of blood so that the erection stays stronger. But what happens is, because it's round, it actually blocks off a particular vessel that is needed to maintain that strength. And so this particular device is designed for men with ED, and it has sort of a little, a dent or sort of a little half moon, whatever, that makes space for this particular vessel and helps to sustain a harder erection. So that's one thing that I recommend. And then another thing that I've also recommended is there is it's a sex toy called the Fleshlight. Mm-hmm. And because for some men, they have to practice, like, there's getting the erection and there's sustaining the erection. And so for those men that are working on sustaining the erection, practicing with something like a Fleshlight, which is basically a device, it's sort of a masturbating sleeve that feels like a vagina. Or they have alternate versions of that, but practicing to build up stamina to sort of learn to sustain the erection. And those are two things that I found to be helpful. There's also something.
Can I just pause you for a minute?
Oh yeah, please do.
I'm going to pause you just to say that we're going to make links to these different products on our website. So if you want to know which Fleshlight Christina Stein, Dr. Stein recommends, you can go to our website, deardoctors.com. Yeah. Right. And then the Giddy also is going to be linked to the Dear Doctors website as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Good point. Sorry. Thank you. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to mention too, because one of the things that I hear from my clients a lot is that they really miss the intimacy of being able to penetrate their partner. And that even if they try other things, which is something that I work with, that it's sort of like if this isn't working, have a plan B so that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket and it's not so intense when you can't get an erection. But there is still that disconnect feeling of not being able to actually penetrate and connect that way physically. So there is another device that's called Stays Hard. and it is a almost like a splint for the penis, and it holds it so that it stays erect enough, even if it's half erect or more flaccid, to guide it in so that there can be penetration.
Great.
And I've found that has really helped a lot of couples as they're trying to build up the stamina or just maintain that sense of intimacy, to feel like they're energetically connected with their partners.
And as people age and, to no fault of their own, have poor health and poor cardiovascular health. I have plenty of clients in their 70s and 80s that also want help, and they also miss penetrating their partner, and their partners really miss intercourse. So that sounds like a super product for those people to try, far better than the splints that are inserted internally. Or the injections that work and don't work.
Internally meaning you mean surgically implanted?
Surgically implanted.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, because this does go internal, but it's sort of an internal experience.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't have balls or a penis, but ouch, that hurts me too.
It's supposed to be very helpful.
Yeah, right. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Oh, but on that note, we should probably talk about how so often when couples are coming in, or an individual is coming in with an issue with ED, we do look at the anxiety and for a period of time take intercourse off the table entirely, so that you start to think about your sex life as not just, insertion of penis into vagina, or penis into anus, or whether you're working with gay couples or hetero couples, you want to take the emphasis off the penetration and onto the rest of their sex life that they may well be neglecting as a result of focusing so keenly on the erection or lack thereof. So do you want to talk about some exercises that you suggest in that department?
Well, let's see. I mean, I think it's actually a blessing to take intercourse off the table, because so many couples stop investing in the foreplay, right?
Yep.
Which is really so nice in building up that anticipation and the arousal for both people.
Yep.
Specifically, I think that one thing that is very helpful for men to receive is sort of like this external prostate massage, which is sort of, using oil or some kind of a lubricant to sort of just massage underneath the testicles. And in that
almost
area,
like the own massage for women.
Yes, exactly. Cool. And so that I recommend. And also it creates intimacy, anticipation. It feels good. It sort of, enhances the arousal, and it can be reciprocated both ways. But there are lots of different techniques. We could have a whole podcast on foreplay techniques,
we will.
Yeah,
we will. We will have one episode or many episodes of techniques. But I also want to alert our viewers or listeners to the fact that some people and couples who have experienced trouble with ED, or their partner's erection, or therefore their sex life, they'll come in to see me after years of no sex in their relationship.
Right.
So people are coming in having not been sexual with their partner in a very long time, and so something like a prostate massage or an own massage is very scary to them at first. So I start wherever the couple seems like they will be able to tolerate an exercise. So it might be a clothed exercise of spooning and breathing together and really, aligning their breath. Or it might be washing each other's hair in the bathtub. Or it might be, just really cuddling and connecting by touch on the couch as they watch their favorite show. We'll start wherever they're at. And then, of course, most couples are ready for a classic Masters and Johnson Sensate Focus routine. So if they want to start the Sensate Focus stage 1, then I start them with that to sort of take intercourse off the table, take the erection focus off the table, and just do sensation focus, which is a highly intimate exercise, as you know, and see how they tolerate that before moving on to bigger exercises.
Well, and sometimes it's just about sitting next to each other on the couch. Right.
And talking about this.
Yeah, like depending on how long the relationship has been sexless.
Yeah.
You know, it does really, like you're saying, you have to meet them where they're at, but it can be as little as just changing where they're sitting on their normal daily routines, which again is a whole other wonderful subject that we'll have to spend a session on.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is something about, you know, just making it fun to play, to bring the foreplay as the main event, as opposed to a means to an end, and really taking turns kind of rediscovering each other's bodies, seeing what feels good.
Later down the road, toys,
showering together, you know, just different sort of more sensual activities where it's about the process and it's about being with the person. Sometimes, you know, I even recommend to my clients to wear a blindfold over their eyes, because it really, again, is something that takes away that sense, and then it heightens the other senses. So the sense of touch, and a lot of times too, people are talking about anxiety. There's a lot of self-judgment, self-awareness, you know, preventing that vision kind of blocks a big part of our ability to judge. And so it helps them to relax a little more and be less self-conscious.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, because it is scary for people to really address these things. The reason they become problems is because, you know, problems are painful and human beings avoid pain. And as we avoid pain, we become avoidant. And as the relationships get avoidant, then you really have real problems. And what I tell my couples or my individuals is, you know, the only real thing that you don't want to do is avoid sex, avoid each other. Go in there and kind of get ready to have some, if not lovely intimacy, then okay, some mediocre sex. But one positive experience, whether it's sensate focus, a positive experience with sensate focus, or a positive experience in a shower together, or a positive experience with a half erection, but it was enjoyable for both people, or great oral sex. As soon as you get these positive experiences on top of them, then the confidence comes back and the fear abates. And as confidence comes in and fear abates, you know, the focus on the erection is less noticed, and then things start to get better over time. Pretty significantly. And some people, they get better just because they came in together and addressed it with someone like you or me on the couch. Just having that third party that's going to say the difficult words and get them to talk about the things that they've been so uncomfortable to speak about, get them talking. Just sometimes that's all that they really need.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a good point. Just starting with something.
Yeah.
Well, so it's that time went by very fast, and guess it's time we wrap up our
absolutely
video cast with you all today. But hopefully we provided some helpful tips and some ideas, and you know, like we are going to have this on our website, deardoctorspodcast.com. And so if you have any questions or comments that you want to post regarding what you heard today, we will definitely respond to you. We'll also post links to all of the different solutions or resources that we mentioned today. And next week, we're going to be talking about, or I guess in our next video cast, we'll be talking about, what do you think, Dr. Pelka?
Oh, well, why don't we go ahead and talk about vaginismus? Because I think vaginismus as the corollary for erectile dysfunction, and women who suffer with vaginismus feel like, you know, such outliers, like no one understands the experience they have not being able to be penetrated, where the muscles just, you know, restrict penetration from occurring.
Yeah.
So join us for vodcast number 2 of DearDoctorsPodcast.com. The next time you have a moment to click on our next vodcast.
Sounds wonderful. All right.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Stein.
Thank you, Dr. Palka.
And we'll sign off now. Everyone, take care, and hopefully you're having happy, healthy sex. Okay.
There we go. Yes. To happy, healthy sex.
Cheers.
You turn off. Oh, you are the host. No, I am signing off. You can come in, babe. I was lurking at the door.